There are monsters that have names: Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and then there are monsters that don't. The creatures that live in shadows, the things children imagine hiding under beds, the shapes standing at the end of dark hallways. For generations, one of those creatures was the boogeyman. And in 1932, one of Britain's most famous musicians transformed that childhood fear into a song. A cheerful song, a strange song, a song that somehow became one of the eeriest recordings ever associated with Halloween. It happens to be one of my favorite songs of all time. This is the story of Hush, 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 Here Comes the Bogeyman. I am Gregory Hallows. This is Preserve Halloween Podcast. And on this episode, we're traveling back nearly a century before television dominated entertainment, before horror movies filled multiplexes, before Halloween had a soundtrack, back to an era when radio ruled the world. And at the center of that world stood a man named Henry Hall. And for many listeners today, the song Hush, 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 Here Comes the Bogeyman exists almost entirely within Halloween culture. It's a song that many people discover on spooky playlists. It's been heard in horror films. It's found in haunted attraction soundtracks. Or you may have stumbled upon it searching for forgotten Halloween treasures. But the story behind the song and the man behind the recording is more fascinating than most people realize. In this podcast, we're going to explore who Henry Hall was, why he became one of the biggest stars in Britain, how his song was created, why the song works, and how a cheerful novelty tune somehow became one of Halloween's most endearing songs, and how creepy it is. So, first off, who was Henry Hall? Before we talk about the boogeyman, let's talk about the man. Because in modern Halloween circles, the song often overshadows the artist. And that's unfortunate because Henry Hall had one of the most remarkable careers in British entertainment history. He was born in South London in 1898, studied music at Trinity College of Music, where he learned trumpet, piano, harmony, and counterpoint. This wasn't a guy who stumbled into success. He was a trained musician, and he was a serious musician. He understood both the technical and the creative sides of music. His first professional work involved writing music for the Salvation Army, and then became military service during World War I. And while serving with the Royal Field Artillery, he played trumpet and piano for the military band. And if you haven't been in the military, that fact may be an overlooked just tidbit, but military bands were some of the finest musical training grounds in the world during that era. Precision always mattered. Discipline always mattered. Musicianship definitely mattered. And those experiences would help shape the leader he would later become. And like many successful careers, his did not happen overnight. He had a slow rise through hotel orchestras and musical management positions. And then, eventually, he became associated with the prestigious Glen Eagles Hotel. And that's where something happened. Something very, very important. He convinced the BBC to broadcast from the hotel. And that decision began a relationship with British broadcasting that would ultimately make him a national celebrity. And this is where the story is hard to explain or may become unbelievable to our modern audiences. Because today, we're completely surrounded by media. We can't escape it. We have thousands of channels, millions of websites, unlimited entertainment at our fingertips. But in the 1930s, radio was absolutely everything. And Henry Hall became one of the radio's biggest stars. In 1932, he became the leader of the BBC Dance Orchestra. So every weekday afternoon, listeners would gather around the radio to listen to him. His broadcast became a national institution, and a lot of people described him as the most famous man in Britain. During his peak, you could argue that he was the most famous man. And think about that. I didn't say the most famous musician. He was one of the most famous people. He was a household name. Millions of listeners knew his voice. Millions knew his orchestra. Millions tuned in daily. And his popularity reached such a level, it's difficult to fully appreciate it because our media landscape today is so different, and it was so different back then. And 1932, that magical year, he recorded 2 songs that would permanently link to his legacy. The first one was Teddy Bear's Picnic, and you probably don't recognize that song title, but look up Teddy Bear's Picnic, and I can almost guarantee you probably have heard it. And the second song, of course, Hush, 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 Here Comes the Bogeyman. That's how it's spelled, but Boogeyman. Now let's talk about the song itself. Recorded in 1932, like we said. The vocal was performed by Val Rosing, and that's very, very important to mention because Henry Hall was not the singer. He was just the band leader, and you have to give credit to the vocal performance that came from Rosing. They created something remarkable together. It was a novelty song, it was a children's song, and it became somehow a Halloween song. We'll be right back after this quick break. I am Gregory Hallows, your voice behind the Preserve Halloween podcast and founder of the Halloween Preservation Society. Halloween is more than a holiday. It's history, folklore, and a tradition worth protecting. If you love the stories, the research, and the deep dives into Halloween I bring you, please consider supporting the Preserve Halloween podcast. Your support can help me with more research opportunities, including travel to locations relevant to Halloween history, and to bring you even more insight into the world's greatest holiday. Every one of your contributions, no matter the amount, helps keep the jack-o'-lantern glowing just a little bit longer. So support the show if you can, help me preserve the past, and keep Halloween history alive for generations to come. Check the links in the show description to find out more. And thank you. And now, back to the podcast. All at once. So, what's the big deal about the boogeyman? The boogeyman is legendary because it is a monster without a fixed appearance. It is basically whatever you're scared of, right? And that's what makes the boogeyman terrifying. Dracula has a face we recognize. Frankenstein has a face. The Wolfman has a face. All these monsters have a face we recognize. The boogeyman is whatever you are most afraid of. And that's super powerful because you basically feed the boogeyman your fears. And that's why the character has survived for centuries, because it's your own fears, right? So what's so fascinating about this song, and it's the contradiction involved. The song's not really scary. If you listen to the words, it's not scary. And, well, it's not intentionally scary. It's cheerful, it's playful, it's whimsical, it's really funny. But modern listeners find it unsettling, and I think that's because of the context. Context changes everything. When this song was recorded, it was meant to calm children, to reassure them. It's mocking fear in the lyrics. The message is, don't worry, don't be afraid, the boogeyman isn't worth fearing. But when modern audiences hear the song, they hear this old recording that has vintage instrumentals and the vocals are distant and, it sounds old. And if you listen to it like a recording off of vinyl, it sounds, you hear the crackles and the age. And then that's eerie. A lot of movies and television shows choose old songs because they're creepy, because they're old. And one of the greatest ironies of Halloween culture is that simply being old can become spooky. Old dolls are spooky. Old photographs are spooky. Old recordings are spooky. And that's where Hush 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 falls. It is spooky, not primarily, but it doesn't hurt because it's old. It's over, nearly a century old, has transformed this lighthearted novelty tune into something atmospheric and scary, something mysterious, something haunting. And that's where it becomes, a fascinating chapter. The song didn't completely disappear. It just evolved, and it was rediscovered through film and television. And well after its initial recording and, what you would consider the life of a song, it would appear in numerous films, television shows, and video games, including BioShock 2, Jeepers Creepers, Sinister 2. It was just featured in the new Welcome to Derry project. So this song from 1932, that was a novelty song, became part of modern horror culture. And filmmakers love it because of the contrast. It's a cheerful song, but it plays against frightening imagery, and that creates tension. The audience is expecting warmth, and instead they're given uneasiness. And Hush 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 just is perfect for that. Now, why do Halloween fans embrace this recording? I embrace it because I absolutely love the song. It's hard to explain, but the first time I heard it, I was like, I love this. This is going to be my favorite song. And it wasn't originally a Halloween song, of course. But many Halloween enthusiasts consider it essential for their playlist. And it's because Halloween often returns us to our childhood fears: ghosts, monsters, the darkness. The boogeyman represents all of those. He's not one monster, he's every monster. He's literally the amalgamation of your fears that you pretty much put on yourself. And that makes him uniquely Halloween, if it's a him. But the song checks every box. It references folklore. It deals with fear. It involves a legendary creature. It carries a slight, uncanny atmosphere, I guess. And that's a very cool recipe for Halloween, right? Now, we as Halloween enthusiasts focus on the song, but we shouldn't forget about the artist. Henry Hall's impact extended far beyond one recording. His broadcasting career stretched for decades. He entertained audiences during peace, during war, and during an enormous cultural change. He was one of the defining voices of British radio. So go back and do, a little deep dive into Henry Hall himself. He led the BBC Dance Orchestra, like we said. He hosted those hugely popular broadcasts. He performed for troops during wartime. He produced entertainment programs. And he remained a broadcasting figure well into the 60s. And, for us Halloween fans, we may have been introduced to him through this, strange song about the boogeyman. But look into what else he did, especially, that Teddy Bear's Picnic song. I can almost guarantee you've heard it in something, because I also think that was used in film and movie and TV. So let me end this on, this is one of the things I love most about Halloween history. A song created to entertain children in 1932 finds a second life decades later among horror fans. This radio star from the 30s becomes part of Halloween culture, and the boogeyman always comes back, generation after generation, hiding in the shadows, living in our imaginations. Whenever someone whispers, "Hush, hush, hush," I think of this song. Some songs become hits, some songs become memories, and some songs become legends. Hush, 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 Here Comes the Boogeyman became all three. And nearly a century later, we're still listening to that song. So until next time, stay strange, stay curious, stay spooky, and always preserve Halloween.